And queen takes f3. Oh, what is going on? Oh, this is going to be a fortress. I just don't see any hopes at all. This is very easy. Just rook back and forth.
Taking chess to the next level.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, yeah. Nothing else to say. Wow.
Creating the future of the sport. Introducing the Champions Chess Tour. 10 months, 10 tournaments. The world's best players online and on TV.
Okay, and with the usual delay, we are back with some Banter Blitz. Obviously, we've got the skilling open coming up, starting on Sunday. So that's going to be huge. The start of the new Champions Tour, and that's what I think we're all looking forward to. And without further ado, I'll try and start this particular Banter Blitz session with a 5-minute game, and let's try and return to my old love, the rat, and see if people have started taking it seriously to prepare for it. Bishop d3. Yeah, I talked about this before. Bishop d3 is not a bad move at all. Let me try c5. Because the idea of bishop d3 is to c3 actually, that could be quite clever. Yeah, let me take on d4. The idea of bishop d3 there is to develop without putting the knights on c3, to play c3 yourself at a later stage, or even c4. So here I've decided to play without bishop g7 for the moment, and I think in the spirit of the rat, I have to play this way. And yeah, normally you would go knight h5 here, bishop g4 to come. I'm thinking h3 then, maybe knight to g7. Try and exchange the bishops with bishop f5. But I'm a little bit worried that it's a bit time consuming. So I'm gonna try and put the knights on a more active square instead. Yeah, castles. I'm not thrilled about this because eventually I think I'll have to trade everything on c3 and then d3, and then my opponent's gonna have a very, very good control over the center. Obviously, the c3 will be a bit of a target for me in the future, but I do think the fact that the whole white structure is so stable, and my king will have some worries here in finding a safe home. I think this means that white has to be somewhat better. I think I'll go h6 now, just to prevent bishop g5, and possibly intending bishop e7, and then start working the king with the via f8 to g7. Don't love it though. Also, whenever I go bishop here, besides the fact that the bishop is not so well placed there, bishop a3 is also a bit of an issue. So all in all, I've got some difficulties here, but I do have some positional trumps in the long run, in terms of better pawn structure on the queen side. But I think for the moment that's a bit of a pipe dream. and I think white is considerably better. But all to play for, of course. H4, it's very logical. Ending both H5 at some point, and also possibly knight H2 to G4. So I'll try to prevent the first of those plans. If H5, for better or worse, I think I just have to take it. Still castle queen side at some moment, so it's not like my king is just stuck to forever being in the center here. Knight A5, at the very least asking some questions, or rather one question, which is I'm asking him to defend the A4 pawn. And Queen C6, now possibly intending Rook C8 and then King D7. Yeah, with the bishop to D2, there's not so much point in going Rook C8 because that pawn is already protected. So I'll just go Knight C4. Now that also Knight D2 is no longer an option, trying to trade those knights. And now I'm threatening to go A6 and win that pawn on A4. And since my opponent did not prevent that, that is exactly what I'm going to do. Next, I'll play Queen C6 back, and then I'll go B5, possibly later bringing the king to D7. And without that pawn on A4, I think I have a very solid construction over there. Yeah, so he just put me in check, but I think I'll just take it. I'll go Queen C6 as planned. Don't see any great threats here. Possibly Rook E6. I'll take it. Probably F E6 because Queen E6, Rook E1 doesn't look too clear. I'll probably take it. Yeah, F E6 and then Queen G6. I'll go King D8 and hope for the best. Not too clear though, he should try it. Because otherwise he could be in a lot of trouble. Yeah, F4 is no good. Because it effectively just kills bishop on D2, and he'll probably have to go F5 later on to activate the bishop, which is in a bit of a sorry state at the moment. This could be very clearly one of those cases of good knight versus bad bishop. I'll go B5. Always aesthetical to put all the pawns on the same color complex. And then I'll possibly start rerouting the knight maybe to D6 and then E4, try and gobble up some pawns. Yeah, it should be plain sailing now. Knight E4 and once F6 falls, then I really don't have a lot to worry about. G4, but this is desperation, of course. And I lost some time. Okay, don't know if it was a beautiful game, but certainly an interesting strategic fight there. Fortunately for me, I managed to get the upper hand there eventually. So it's mentioned many times before, you have to be a premium member in order to challenge and to get a game. And also you have to, well, I recommend that you challenge me to 5-minute games if you're slightly lower rated, so that we have more, or rather I have more time to try and instruct and discuss the game. And apart from that, let's play 3 minutes to make it more exciting sporting contest. Okay, so we have Yusuf 4646 from Turkey. Once again, I think a lot of Turkish players here challenging, which is obviously nice to see the interest there. And we have a pretty sharp knight or bishop d3. I guess is a bit unusual. Doesn't look like a bad move though. Okay, let me go e6. The only question is really whether the moves bishop d3 and okay, I'll go b5 as a matter of fact. e5 a4 though, that should be fine. Whether bishop d3 and bishop g5 fit, because one of the moves, bishop d3, really hints at an aggressive setup with later f4, and bishop d3 is more usually in connection with castles and all of that. So now, with f3 as well, I've played somewhat similar setups with white, so I wouldn't say it's bad at all, but it's obviously not the most challenging in the sense that I can now develop quite freely, especially with short castle, which is something I generally wouldn't really recommend here, because there isn't too much pressure on my position, and with short castle, that also means that there won't be any attacking option, which means that black is fine. Seeing as structurally black is doing fine, white usually needs to attack in order to justify his play. So with all that talk, let's go 95. It seems very reasonable. Putting the knight on a good central square. I think f4 is never really a good idea in connection with kingside castling. So he goes bishop f1 instead, which seems very sensible. Queen b6 now is played just in order to provoke bishop e3. Then I'll go queen c7. I'll claim that it's a slight achievement for me, that the bishop is a little less active on e3 than it would have been on g5. Don't know if that's anything real though. Knight b3. Don't really know what that's all about. Usually in the Sicilian, if you can play d5 with impunity, you should do it. So I'll try and see if it works out well here. There are some tricks though. For instance, my intention was here after a lot of trades in the center, let's say knight d5, bishop d5, bishop f4. The idea was to go queen takes c2 because the knight on b3 will be hanging. What I did miss though is queen takes c2, rook takes c2, and then knight to d4. And this, as far as I can see, leads me to lose a piece. So I have to find something else. But fortunately, bishop d6 seems quite sufficient. And it also introduces a pretty big threat, which is to go knight takes f3, which he incidentally missed. Knight takes f3 and then bishop takes f4. And this will not only net me a pawn, but it will also net me a very strong pair of bishops. And this should mean that his position is kind of collapsing. I don't see any reason not to take another pawn. And obviously now 2 pawns up with all the positional trumps. Should be winning. Yeah, b4. Let's just take it easy. Double the rooks. It's never hurt anyone. And it's really hard to find good advice there for white. I can take another pawn, bishop f3. Yeah, I guess I'll do it. I don't love it, but if I start teaching people not to take completely free pawns, then I'm doing something wrong. And this, after all, is supposed to be educational. Okay, rook d4. Yeah, g5 looks too natural not to be played. Fortifying that bishop on a nice outpost where it cannot be attacked by any white pawns. And rook d1 is another blunder because of bishop e3. I think I will just go rook c2 as a matter of fact. Could have taken the rook, then rook c1 followed by rook a1, meaning I'll be a full rook up, but I think this is a faster way to the goal. Yeah, rook d3, but that doesn't prevent the main threat, which is rook h2 and mate. Okay, he resigned in time. Okay, not a bad game at all by my opponent. He was just playing a little too passively there and allowing me to build up the pressure. Okay. Let me see. As far as I can see, that's somebody with a picture of me in the profile. As you all know, I'm a sucker for that sort of cheap trick. And so there we go. Have I been black in all the games so far? I think I probably have. Seems a bit unfair, no? Please gives me more opportunities to play the old Reddit-tat-tat. Yeah, with knight f3, these lines are a little less dangerous for black than usual. Doesn't mean that I'm doing well, it just means that the chances of losing in the opening are a little bit smaller. Knight c3. I don't know what's the story here. I guess I could possibly go bishop g7. You constantly have to be worried about h3. Trapping that. And potentially unfortunate horsey on h5, but let's not worry for the moment. Yeah, ed6. I feel like usually you would take back with the queen. Actually castles. I don't know if my opponent realizes, but this is a very clever move. My idea was after d5 to go knight e5, and then after knight e5, bishop e5, bishop h5, gh, queen h5, I might have some counterplay on the g file, or I can at least pretend to. But now if I castle, then d5 comes, and knight e5 is no longer really an option since I've already castled and I cannot use the g file. So either I have to castle d5 and knight b8, which I guess is not completely unreasonable, Or I'll have to go d5 myself. Okay, I'll play d5 myself. Hoping that the knight will be somewhat misplaced on c3 in this structure, and this will yeah, sort of justify the time that I'm losing. Now I'm expecting queen d2, quite likely. And then I think I'll have to go knight f6, trying to go knight e4. Yeah. Seems like a reasonable course of action. After bishop d3, I have a bit of a difficult choice now. I could go bishop g4, but that seems unpromising due to knight e5. Yeah, okay, so my opponent made it pretty easy for me, because h3 doesn't take into account the main threat that I had, which was to go knight e4. Now I will probably win a pawn, regardless of what happens. Yeah, I'll take on g5 now. Yeah, there is the possibility that I'm not actually winning a pawn. Let me think about this. Knight d4, knight d4, bishop d4, knight d5. And if e6, yeah, there's queen d8 followed by knight e7 and then knight c8, king f8, knight c8, bishop b2, rook b1, b7 hangs. That's unpromising. But I could go bishop d4 immediately though. Knight d4, knight d4. Because the bishop hangs on e2, I think I'm winning the pawn. It's just kind of move that's sort of easy to miss, because you really usually don't want to give up that bishop. But for the price of a pretty juicy pawn, I think I'll do it. So here's a little trick as well. Yeah, now after queen d8, I'll take on e2 in between move with check, and I'll force what I thought was pretty favorable simplifications. But now I'm seeing c4. After c4, I'll have to allow cd5 as far as I can see. And the isolated pawn on d5 will mean that I won't have much advantage at all. Fortunately, my opponent went for rook d2, which is not a bad move. It's just that at the present moment, something else was required. Now after c4, I can go bishop c6. Not dc4, rook d1, losing a bishop. But I could go bishop c6, and if rook d1, then I have rook dc8, and I keep the structure intact with a clear advantage. And now I just have a safe extra pawn in the center, which I should be able to convert. Let me just grab a little extra space. Like f4 here is the best chance fighting for some dark squares. Okay, a3, I'll go a5, possibly b4 later on, trying to create a weakness on the queen side. I think especially after c4 here, I'll just go b3, I'll just go b4, and yeah, I'll try and provoke c3, I think, before I go b4. Knight e5, I'll probably just go bishop e8 for the moment. Yeah, knight d4, rook c8. It feels as though my opponent is running a bit out of plans. And yeah. B4 is an idea next, and possibly also E5 at some point. Although I am not going to weaken my structure there. Very likely. B3. Yeah, I think I'll jump into C3 now that I have the chance, and then go A4. Try and create a weakness that way. Rook C1 is a good move, possibly with the intention of knight C2, knight to E2 now, kicking the rook away. Okay, sacking the exchange is somewhat tempting, but I don't think that's the proper thing to do. B4, yeah, my opponent is fighting really well. I'll go G5 now. Try and fight for some of those dark squares that I mentioned earlier. I think C3 is likely to happen. Yeah, now I'll go F6, as F4 cannot be played so easily. Next, I want to go E5. Okay, he prevented that by attacking D5. But if I'll get another chance, with the knight in D4, I'm certainly going E5. And then D4, advancing the pawns and cementing the weakness on C2, which I will now immediately gobble up. D3, D2 looks like a lethal threat. D2 and then D1. Okay, very similar to the last game in the sense that my opponent played very decently, just tad too passively. Yeah, another Beatty nickname, obviously. Carlsen's Nightmare. Yet another Turkish player. Good to see. I think after this one, I'll try a couple of 3-minute games. Just want to get a bit warmed up. Knight f6. This is a move that I often see in simultaneous displays, and no, that's not meant as a compliment, unfortunately. So the move is just not very good. It's a bit similar to the Grunfeld, but you don't get that weakness on c3 after e4, and this basically means that I will get a pretty free reign in the center. After knight c6, then d5 is also coming, which gives me even more tempi in the center. And I think I'll just continue in the same vein. Try and attack more. a4, and then if a5 as was probably more or less forced, then black will have some issues with the knight on b6. And those squares being a bit weak over there. I think now after ed5, I'll take on b6, try and keep the initiative going, and then bishop e5. This obviously cannot be met by knight c6 because of ed5 with a lethal pin. So bishop d7 is forced, and now after queen d5, I really have a pretty fearsome lead in development. Knight c6, and here I think I'll just try and add as much fuel to the fire as soon as possible. It's queen e7 now. Looks like almost the only move. Knight e5, queen e5, bishop e7 is not possible because of rook d1 with a lethal pin, and if queen e7 instead, I have bishop d7, which means that the king will have to go for a bit of a walk, which walks are generally healthy for you, but I don't think this one is. Rook d1 check, and now I believe king c8 is absolutely forced. King e8, queen b5 will be mate on the next move. I have queen c6. Apart from looking very ugly, at the very least I have queen b5, king c7, then knight d5, winning immediately. So he quite correctly goes king c8, which is the only way to continue the game. And now, yeah, for queen b5, I think queen e6 is the best way to fight. And I have to say, it's not quite over. Queen e6 followed by bishop c5. You can certainly put up a lot of resistance, more than I'm 100% comfortable with. Like, thought this would be close to over, but maybe I actually rushed it. I was just thinking development advantage and all of the positional trumps that I have, but the bishop on c5 is really, really good. This means that the advantage that I have is somewhat limited. So now I'm trying to reroute my pieces a bit. King b8 now, trying to escape with the king. I'm going to go queen d3 with a few ideas. One which is to go queen to g3 with a nasty check. But the other one, just as important, is to go knight to b5 once the king comes to a7 to force it back. And this means that he probably cannot survive for very long after all. Knight is going to b5, and the rook to d1, creating a nasty threat of rook to d8 as well. So maybe there is some sense, there is some logic in the world after all. Okay, I'll go rook d1 first, maybe, just to make sure rook d8 doesn't happen. And for king b8, knight b5 looks very, very strong. Yeah, my opponent has fought really well after an initial bad opening, but I think there's just nothing here. Too many weaknesses. Like if you put the black king on g8 and the rook on f8, then he's only a little bit worse. But yeah, but the king as it is just hopeless. Rook c8. Now we're gonna see a very quick mate, I believe. Queen c7 is probably the only way to prolong it a bit. But obviously, no one's gonna want to do that game now. Serious opponent. So we got ourselves an FM. I feel like I played Raffaello before, but apparently I haven't. Anyway, regardless of whether I played Raffaello before, he's going to get treated to the rat. Didn't accept the rat, which means we have the quasi rat or accelerated rat or whatever the cool kids call it. Anyway, this I feel like is sort of the best case scenario you can get in this opening, because this is, I think, very much a playable French type of position. Doesn't mean that I'm better or anything close to it. It just means that I shouldn't complain by any means. So queen a5, I'm trying to pose some questions early on. But I am a bit of a chicken, so I think I'll just pose them and then close them, as they say. After all, with the structure that we have, it seems very reasonable for me to want a closed structure. Okay, bishop h6 is a bit nasty. Exploiting the fact that I'm not going to want a repetition. So what I'll do is I'll repeat once and then I'll do something else. h6 looks a bit stupid, but I do have the option of playing bishop e7 next. And this should mean that I'm doing fine. Just fine. Once he has to exchange on e7, then positionally in the long term I'm doing okay. And even though my active prospects aren't too great here, my position is so solid that I should be fine. And also his bishop doesn't really have a lot of prospects here. Like he would love to have a dark squared bishop in order to attack the very squares that he's trying to attack with the queen now. But without that dark square bishop, I just don't think it's very effective. I don't really think white is worse, but I'm certainly quite comfortable. Yeah, it feels like sooner or later I should have to open up the queen side here. So I'll try and do that. I'll actually do it sooner rather than later. a6, that means that... Oh, what did I think? I thought rook c5 was forced to protect the pawn, but obviously this is much better. Yeah, that was a miss. That was pretty unnecessary, I have to say. Okay. Don't think you should be doing this, sir. Don't think his position was ready for that opening. It's h3, I would have grabbed the h file, and I just don't think there are enough pieces for him to attack with. Okay, this one I'll grab. Can't say I'm a famous pawn grabber, but I still like to grab them once in a while. Knight d8. Just trying to consolidate. Blundering a6. Obviously. Yeah, it was unfortunate. Really unfortunate. Oh, knight b7 blunders to queen f6. Yeah, that was really bad. I'll go knight c6 then. Yeah, rook b6. I was trying to bait him to go queen f6 there, but he didn't take said bait. Okay. Now I have to both play quicker and to play better, which is a bit of a tall task. Tall task and a big ask. Okay, we'll push this one forward. Should not have allowed rook a7. Damn it. That was really stupid. Really not very clever at all. Okay, I'll exchange the queens. We'll have the chance. Try and reroute the knight. Obviously, I need to play a lot faster. Okay. Try and go for a rook attack here. Fork, please blunder. Yes. Now I have a chance. No, I forgot to take the I forgot to take the rook. Damn it. And we have a loss. Oops. Oops. That wasn't good. That wasn't good at all. How did I forget to take the rook first? It's just not used to playing fast. I have to say good game by my opponent though. Played fast and avoided blundering for the most part, and very solid mostly. But yeah, I should do better. Okay. Let's try and find another 3-minute game. Okay. Don't know who this is, but looks like a grandmaster. Zon Robla, or something along those lines. Anyway, we're getting e4, and the rat didn't work out the last game, but I don't think it was due to the opening, so I'll just repeat it. Like, I don't really think you can go bishop d3 and really expect to be doing great from the opening. Okay, h4. It's quite interesting. I guess I'll just stop him in his tracks. And I have a fairly nice outpost on g4, so I don't think I should complain. Bishop e3 and then knight c6. Yeah, I feel like I'm doing very well out of the opening here. I'll take on f3, and then I'll go e6. And I have a bit of an unpleasant threat here after e6. Doesn't actually really matter which one he recaptures with. I have an unpleasant threat, which is to go cd4. And I don't think he really addressed that threat by his last move. Yeah, cd4, bishop b4 was the problem. But now there are a lot of weaknesses in the white position. And I don't really think you can play like this with impunity. I think even the way that I'm playing today, yeah, this play deserves punishment. Okay, so we decided to give up a pawn in order to limit the damage, which I guess is a reasonable decision. But still, I have a very sound extra pawn. I was hoping he wouldn't find that. Yeah, no, I don't have that much, to be fair. At least I can go rook c8, because bishop on h6 covers the square on c1. So I can't oppose the rook, but yeah, after a later d5, I don't have that much. Rook h3, rook d3 is a nice maneuver, or even like this. I think I'll go b5 and then a5. The bishop is sitting very pretty on b3, so I have to try and harass it. Okay, a4, this one I'm pretty happy to see. Now I'm getting... Probably there wasn't a good choice there, because d5, a4 was trapping the bishop for what I think is insufficient compensation. But also, what he played doesn't look that great. I have some tricks here, like bishop c1, intending rook d4. And then if rook a2, I can go rook a2, I can go bishop. I can go rook b4 and then bishop b3, so I don't actually get bishop b2 there. It's a bit disappointing. Okay, I'll go bishop. I'll go rook b4 immediately. And rook b8, just trying to harass this bishop a little bit more, I should say. Okay, yeah, bishop d1. Then I think I'll just move over again. Yeah, he's defending pretty well here. Guess I'll try and bring the bishop into the game. Rook d8. At least I'm winning d4. I don't think this counterplay that he has is too dangerous. Now I'll take and I'll go king g7. And I missed this, of course. But still I got bishop c3 next. I should win another pawn and that should be the game. Don't want to exchange rooks, so I'll go rook b5, and if bishop c4, I got rook c5, and king f4, there's bishop e5. And with 2 extra pawns, this should be plain sailing. Yeah, he's defending well for the moment. I guess I'll go here, rook a3. Try and poke a little bit. Now, h4 should be falling, although I have to play a bit faster. Okay. Yeah, a little bit slow, but I guess after all, a comfortable enough game. He just played really, really poorly in the opening there. Don't know really what that was all about. Yes. Okay. Let's try and slow down. Yeah, with a 5-minute game. Nice little username there in Fisher Firuzia. The 3rd best and 136th best player of all time. Okay. Anyway, a little change up from the rat, and I'll go for one of my other Banter Blitz favorites, which is the Scandinavian with Queen d6. Now that the pawn, the bishop is on c4, the a6 looks pretty juicy. In that, I'll win a tempo by attacking the bishop later on, and that I shall do immediately. So I feel like in a lot of lines here, you would go a6, b5, even without getting a tempo. So this feels pretty comfortable for black. And as a matter of fact, with if I'm allowed to go c5 and develop normally, I will probably be a little bit better. With better central control and somewhat more active pieces. So I think knight e4 is very correct, just trying to trying to simplify the game a bit. So with Queen C7, kind of declining the exchange of the bishops, which would have occurred after knight e4, bishop e4. And I'm thinking that my bishop on e7 is going to be better than his on d3, since it has a long diagonal to work on. I was not really worried there about a possible knight f6, knight takes f6, because I would go gf6, and I would have possibilities of going knight d3 later, and also rook g8, exploiting that open file. Now, however, it seems that he is sort of provoking me a little bit too much here to play actively, and I'll happily be provoked in this particular case. We do have an interesting line here. If he goes bishop h4, which I believe is only a real move that protects f2 and doesn't make bishop takes f3 a winning threat, then I'll take on f3 maybe. And it was just a very interesting line there. Take on f3, queen f3, queen takes h2, king f1, queen takes h4, queen takes a8 check, king f6, queen b7 check, king f6, queen f3 check, and then king g5. And there are no more checks. Oh, there's queen f7 there. Probably it's no good. I was just thinking in that case, maybe if I could there take on f2 later on, have a couple of pawn the exchange, I could have a good position. The problem with g3 is that it doesn't preempt my main threat, which is to take on f2. And I'm attacking the queen, attacking the bishop on d3, which will fall with check once the queen moves. Discovered check, and my opponent resigns. Just a little bit careless there, allowing knight g4 and so on. So that it meant that it was so very difficult. Okay, let's go for another 3-minute game. Mateo Lopez from Colombia. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, let's go for the London, and once he goes g6, I'll go for the old h4 attack, which is actually holding up pretty well, I think, in practice. Like, I think castling is actually considered a mistake here, because h5 is just very dangerous, followed by sacking the exchange after knight h5, which means that what he did here with c6 is more sensible, just making a waiting move, and now h5 really is, there's not that much point to it, seeing as black hasn't castled. So we'll go for this instead, which is pretty standard. Bishop f5. Yeah, I guess that's reasonable. I'll go knight e5. Then I'll go f3, hinting at a later g4 or f4. Sorry, g4 e4. Yeah, queen b6 is very reasonable. I think I'm sacking a pawn here though. If queen b2, rook b1, queen c2, bishop c2, rook b7. I do have a pretty active rook on the 7th, and his extra pawn is really weak. Whenever he wants to castle kingside, he probably has to sack a pawn. So it seemed a very reasonable sack for me. Bishop h6, I guess, is quite reasonable, intending a later knight d7. Guess I'll just castle for now. Seems that it's pretty far away from creating any sort of dangerous threats against my king. So, oh, wait a sec. Did I miss g4 here? I didn't actually miss g4 because there was hg, fg, bishop e4, and then attacking the rook. And if I move the rook, he would have time to prevent. Yeah, that was a bit sloppy not to consider it at all. Yeah, rook g8 for preparing knight d7. Very, very sensible. I think I'll go knight a4 now, kicking the queen away. Queen d8 was the only available square. Knight c5 seems reasonable. And I'm thinking if he goes b6, which is the most natural move, I'll drop the knight. Yeah, knight a6, rook c8 doesn't seem to be much. I'll drop the knight back to d3 and claim that the knight is better placed on d3 than it was on c3, which I think almost certainly it is. It has a lot more prospects here of jumping to, let's say, e5 or maybe even b4. Certainly have ideas of going g4 now. As a matter of fact, I think that's what I'll do. Yeah, it seems reasonable. So takes. I give up the e4 square for the bishop, but I do open the f file. I have the option of going g5 later on, or even to go knight f2 at some point and harass the bishop. Knight f8 seems a bit too passive. Don't really know what to point here. Knight f2 now, I have two ideas. First one is the most obvious, which is to take on e4. The other one, I think, is even stronger, which is to go bishop a6. And actually, this means that I'm trapping the rook. Just for show, I'm not going to take the rook, since I have so many positional trumps here, and the bishop is so strong that it seemed unnecessary. Bishop e6 now, f e6, queen d6 is a queen mate. Okay, interesting strategic fight there, and yeah, when it all sort of flared up, then it was clear that I had the upper hand also with this clock ticking down. But certainly interesting. Okay. Yeah. So now we have none less than man, beer, pig, all the way from Australia. Love the profile picture though. That doesn't indeed look like a man or pig. Maybe those exist in Australia. Who knows? Wouldn't rule it out. What's the time in Australia now? It must be pretty late. Probably like 1 in the morning. Yeah, I think it must be something like that. But regardless of whether you're a man, bear, or a pig, or all of the above, you gotta show up. That's the first order of the day. You gotta show off for the game. Maybe Pig just wanted the attention without having to play the game. Okay. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. What comes after 6? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sorry, Manbear Pig, you're out. Wow. Wow. We need VAR here. Was Manbear Pig in time? Okay, I'm not gonna waste any more time, I'm just gonna play the game. You got lucky, sir. And we're getting a rat. He's just spent all this time preparing for the rat. That is so nasty if that's the case. Keep me waiting and then just preparing for the rat. No, I don't think so. I don't think he's prepared because this is not a great line. I mean, white is doing okay, but there are worse lines for sure. Basically here now I have two threats. One which is to go rook g2, and the other one which is to go knight c6 and attack d4. As well as his queen. And there, yeah, the queen e4 is a reasonable way to deal with both. This is not like scary stuff for black at all. There we go, knight c6 anyway. Mucking it up a bit. If d5, I think I'm going f5. Just absolute caveman style. Hiding my assets in the caveman island. Rook g4 now. Generally, it's a good strategy in Blitz, this one. Just attack stuff on every move. And especially when your opponent has brought his queen out at an early stage. That is a very valuable piece, which means that you can win very valuable time by attacking said very valuable piece. And now, after bishop, I would have had a double attack, which means that queen f2 is a lot better. Yeah, it's actually not so obvious what I do here. Queen d5 is tempting. But is it any good? Bishop d4, rook g2. It's queen e3, but then I can at the very least take on c2 with some murky compensation. If bishop d4, oh, there's knight c3 immediately as well. Yeah, I guess that stuff doesn't work. So what should I do then? I guess I'll just go bishop g7. Developing stuff. Knight c3, that seems to be clearly the best move. What to do now? It's definitely posing some questions now. c5, castles, queen a5 maybe? Does look a bit loose, but I guess I'll go for it. I didn't see a lot of promising alternatives, to be fair. Because if he does have time to go knight e2 with impunity, then I think he's just doing fine. So now after knight e2, I'm going to take it. And regardless of how he captures, a2 is going to be hanging, and his king is going to be fairly exposed. Maybe knight f3 is an option though. Knight takes f3, g f3. I go rook g6. Still threatening bishop takes c3. I'm probably not doing great here. It's really, really murky. So I'm not majorly worried, but I don't think I'm doing fantastic. Yeah, he's playing well. This particular creature. Rook d3, I think, can be met by b6 possibly, with the idea of bishop a6 next, which seems very hard to meet. Also, b6, of course, protects c5, which is not an insignificant detail. Bishop c5 now is probably critical. Then I'll take on c3 and then probably on a2. Don't know if I should take on a2 or c3. And yeah, in lack of anything better, I'll take it from there. I think I'll take on c3 actually. Seems that the queen is covering a few more squares from there. Bishop e6. Developing and protecting against mate in 2. What more can you ask of a single move? Bishop d4 seems quite plausible, then queen a3 check. Bishop b2, queen takes a2. And for the moment, I seem to be doing fine there. My position is shaky for sure, but I don't think he has anything too direct. It's going to be interesting to see. Note also that the queen protects e6 from a2, which I feel I have to say my opponent is playing an excellent game. Certainly the outcome from here is yeah, it's not even close to being clear. So rook c8, and now I'm just hoping that after queen h8, rook g8, I'm gonna have rook c2 later on. Oh, he just goes back? That was surprising. Now rook c2 I guess doesn't work, because b2 is protected, so rook g2 later on doesn't have a lot of sting. Guess I'll try to exchange queens then. Gotta move, sir. Okay, yeah. Bishop d5. Trying to retain that extra pawn. I'll try and be cheeky and retain this one. Bishop f6 was probably a good move. I would have gone king f7 there. Now I think I'm in control. I'm consolidating a pawn up, and obviously he's losing on time as well. Okay, sir. Very good game, and hopefully that was well worth staying up for. Yeah. Sorry, what was that? Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll keep going till half, and then I'll go. Okay. Yeah, so just a few more games here. I thought I saw an interesting one. Mr. Ariantari, show me what you got. He lost a match here the other day to Johan Sebastian Christiansen. He's playing the Tarish. Wow. Didn't expect that. Didn't expect that at all. So I'm just gonna play very, very solid here. Bore him to death. There are actually a lot of very interesting sharp lines in this opening. Not this one though. This one generally leads to boring positions that are very slightly better for white. And it's generally a good choice if you want to make your life, sorry, your opponent's life miserable. Okay, so what's the story here? Okay, let's take an f6 now. Yeah, I think I should take an f6. There was also bishop a4 there. Maybe bishop a4 was a lot better actually. Yeah, I think bishop a4 was better. Huh, that was a shame. Yeah, knight a4, and then bishop moves. I can take on d4. There was knight bishop b6 though. Then knight b6, queen b6, bishop f6, gf6. Maybe that's what he wanted, and it's not completely clear, but nevertheless, it was possibly better. I think here still bishop b6 is going to be played. Maybe I don't have that much. Maybe I actually don't have that much at all. Bishop b6, queen b6. Knight d4, rook a d8. And I got nothing. I think the weakness of his king side is not significant there. Okay, I'll go e4 instead then. Knight e5. Okay, let's try and play for this positional idea of trying to claim that my knight could one day be stronger than his bishop. Seems a bit far-fetched, to be honest. Even as the author of the idea, it seems far-fetched. It's usually not a good sign. Okay, I'll take, and then I'll start the whole rerouting operation. Okay, so far so good. If I can establish the knight on d3 or c4, I should be doing fine. Okay, we'll go g3 just to be safe. Yeah, rook h6 doesn't seem to do all that much. Oh, f5. That is brave. Don't know if it's any good. I think with the superior minor piece, the possible opening here of the king side is quite favorable to me. Okay, we'll go queen g2. Goes away, and then try and double rooks. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a scramble. Very interesting. Okay, well, no more time for talking. We gotta We gotta start working here. Giving up this one with check, but I do think that his king is the one that's gonna be weaker here. Potentially. Hopefully, at least. If he takes on c8 twice, I'll take on h2. So I'm not worried about that. Okay, now I think I'll take... Do I have anything good here? Knight g4, there's d2, which looks a bit scary. Okay, I don't have time. I don't have time at all. Oh, I'm trapping his rook. That was fortunate. Didn't actually see that. Okay, then I'm winning. Only question is if I can do it in time. Yes, pawn is walking. We'll take this one, e7, take, rook e3, and give time. No, I was going to c3 first. What is this? Okay. What? What? How did I lose some time? I was pre-moving. What? How did that happen? I thought I had plenty of time there. Huh. Guess my internet is not ideal. Okay, never mind. I think we'll have time for one more 3-minute game, and then I have to get going. Okay, let's try and make it a good one. Okay, I think this is someone I've never played before. A lot of, yeah, whatever. Apparently somebody from Spain. Okay. Last game here. Try not to lose on time. Try and be a bit faster. Gotta be here though. Gotta be here, monsieur, as they say in Spanish. Nobody here? Absolutely nobody. Okay. Sorry. Okay, how about this one? Angel Killer GMs from Norway? Really? Wow. If this person is really from Norway, I should know who they are. Anyway, last game of the day. What is knight c3? Okay, I'll go c5 then. I feel like the rat wouldn't have worked very well there. Oh, it's a Grand Prix attack. No, it's not a Grand Prix attack. It's close Sicilian of some sort. Regardless of what it is, his positions are usually quite fine for black. Going for a flexible setup here with bishop b7, and one big idea here is that g4 is usually met by f5. Staking serious claim in the center and you're nipping white's ideas in the bud. Here also d5 is a serious idea, so I do believe that white should normally go bishop f2 or bishop to g1 here. Now I think d5 is pretty good. You usually want to meet this with e5 close up the center. When you cannot do that, then this means that I'm going to be able to go d4, and he couldn't actually answer d4 with d4 after the bishop moves, because the queen would be hanging, and this means that he would have been in serious trouble there. Even here, I think positionally, I'm already quite a bit better. Yeah, and this doesn't actually help with bishop h2. I think now knight d1 is probably forced, since here I'm just getting a massive square on e3. Yeah, once the rook moves, I'm going to go f5 now. Even accidentally here trapped his own knight. If knight g5, there's h6, and I really love my position here. It's just a picture of complete harmony. You might want to see a rook on the e file, but apart from that, I'm really just perfectly mobilized, and in that sense, it's not a surprise that the tactics work out as well, and that I'm already completely winning here. So I'm just going h6. Apart from losing a piece here, or yeah, rather a knight, there are also serious positional problems here for my opponent. I'll take on g2 now. Knight before coming next, either with check or just attacking the rook, and queen d5, and there's a lot of trouble there brewing on the long diagonal. King f2 was probably the best choice that he had there, but it wouldn't have helped. Now it's, I think, a forced mate. Yeah, it's a forced mate. King e1, queen h1, queen h2, king f1, queen h1, king f2, queen g2, queen e1, and then queen g1 is mate. Okay, people, I think I'm gonna quit with this decent game. It's been a good ride, and I hope to see many of you for the tournament starting Sunday. So till then, take care.